I am a dishwasher at a high-end restaurant, and what I found in the sink will always haunt me. I first got the job at Carparelli's just over a year ago and have been working there ever since. Carparelli's is one of the most exclusive and high-end restaurants in the city, and sometimes people will wait for a few months just to have the pleasure of eating there. I work as the dishwasher there, and so I am usually kept quite busy. Most nights, the restaurant will serve around 100 people, and so my job is to wash the dishes, dry the dishes, and then put away the dishes. I don't ever really get to see what goes on inside the restaurant, because I am often stuck out the back. So I only have a rough idea of the type of customers that we serve. There is a small window in the kitchen that allows you to see out into the dining area, which I can look out of whenever I am putting away the plates. From what I have seen, nearly everyone wears either a tuxedo or a nice dress. I have even seen some men wearing a top hat, and I have noticed that quite a few of the patrons will also be wearing some kind of fancy gloves. That is the type of customer we usually get at Carparelli's, rich and fancy. I don't really mind my job too much. It can be quite physically demanding, but it pays well. It pays quite well, in fact. I get regular shifts and work long hours. So when my paycheck arrives at the end of the week, all my hard work seems worth it. I have made friends with a couple of the chefs, but the one person that I can't quite seem to get along with is the head chef. No one knows his name. Everyone just calls him Chef. Chef isn't too bad to work for. When I first started, I expected him to act like Gordon Ramsay. So I was pleasantly surprised when I found out that he is a lot more relaxed and easygoing when he is in the kitchen. Sure, the kitchen can get a bit heated, but like the old saying goes, if you can't handle the heat, then get out of the kitchen. And I think that I can handle the heat. The main attraction at Carparelli's is the head chef's special meal. It is an exclusive meal that has to specifically ordered, and it is only allowed to be cooked by chef and only chef. No one else is allowed to know what this meal is, and it is such a closely guarded secret that chef will actually go into another room to cook it. When he is cooking the exclusive meal, he will always keep the door closed so that no one can look in and see any of the secret ingredients and how the meal is cooked. So, last night, my shift began like any other. I get to work and start by cleaning any dishes that may have built up throughout the day. Mainly dishes created from the chefs preparing for that night's service. I clean those until 6 o'clock. That is when service begins. It is usually about half an hour after that I begin cleaning the customers' plates and cutlery. So it was around 6:30 that the plates began to be brought in to be washed. So, there I was, happily washing the plates in the sink, then loading them into a large tray. That would then be put inside the dishwasher. I picked up a large stack of plates that were waiting to wash and placed them into the sink. While I was carrying the plates to the sink, I could feel that something was left on one of the plates. Probably just a little bit of food. It is supposed to be the waiter's job to properly clear the plate of any food before I wash them. But tonight, there was a fairly new waiter working, so I excused the missed food on the plate and got to washing them. I had placed the large stack of plates into the full sink, submerging them into the water. I began with washing the top plate and then placing it onto the tray that goes into the dishwasher. I repeated this with the next few plates, but then I felt something floating in the water. It must be the food that was left on the plate, I thought. I tried to ignore it, but would sometimes feel this small clump of food brush against my hand as I was washing the plates. Then, it brushed up against my hand one more time, but this time, I noticed that it felt a bit strange. It was quite hard and fairly long. It didn't really feel like it was a bit of food. I decided to grab whatever it was, preparing to throw it straight into the bin. I reached down into the sink and found the mysterious floating object. I placed my fingers around whatever it was and I felt kind of strange. It was quite long. It felt hard, but the outside was quite soft. And what is that at the end of it? Is that a nail? I quickly pulled this strange object out of the water and looked at what it was. My thought was correct. It was a nail. A fingernail actually. And it was still attached to the rest of the finger. The long index finger had a large cut at one end of it, where it had been cut off from the rest of the hand. There was still a bit of blood coming out the end of it, but it was also, because it had been submerged, it was beginning to wrinkle. As soon as I saw what it was, I let out a loud scream and dropped the finger back into the sink. My scream must have been quite loud because within a few seconds, the head chef was standing behind me, wanting to know what I was screaming about. "What the hell are you screaming about?" I heard chef's voice say from behind me. "There is something in the sink. It's a finger. It's someone's finger," I replied. Even I could hear the fear and disgust in my own voice, and chef must have heard it too, because he quickly tried to reassure me that it couldn't have been a finger that I had seen. "There is no way that it is a human finger in the sink," he said, trying his best to sound comforting. "Here, let me look at it for you." Before I could say anything, chef plunged his hand into the sink, felt around for a second and then pulled his hand back out. He had the finger grasped in his hand. I saw him take a look at it and his face changed. He realized that I was correct. There was most definitely a human finger in the sink. He looked at for a moment and then he just said on sentence before he walked away, still holding on to the finger. "Oh," he said, quite casually, That's not supposed to be in there. As he walked away, all I could think was, no, it's not. It's still supposed to be attached to a human hand. I was a bit taken aback by how casually Chef had just picked up the finger, and I wasn't quite sure what he meant by it's not supposed to be in there. Where was it supposed to be then? Was he expecting it to be somewhere else? I saw the head chef carrying the finger through the kitchen, but it looked like he was trying to hide it from other workers. As he walked through, I watched him until he disappeared around a corner, and I knew that he was heading to room where he usually prepares his secret meal. He reappeared only a moment later, and he seemed to just get back to work, unfazed by the fact that a human finger had been found in the sink. I didn't know what to do. This seemed like it was a police matter, but Chef was just acting like it hadn't happened, or that this was normal. I knew that the finger had been bought in on one of the dirty plates, and so I guessed that the finger probably belonged to a customer. So, why wasn't Chef reacting with horror or fear? I think Chef saw me staring at him, because he looked over in my direction and then began to walk towards me. As he approached me, I managed to ask him, "Is the person who lost the finger all right? Shouldn't we call the police, or an ambulance, or anybody?" Chef then just calmly replied, "Don't worry, it is being taken care of. The customer is okay and the matter is being dealt with. But, if wish, you can go and sit down for a while. I can understand that it might be a bit traumatic to find what you did. So, take a bit of time off to recover." I was beginning to feel quite sick, so I took him up on his offer and I went to sit down in the small staff lounge area. It was good to sit down, but something was still not right. Why was everyone so calm about this situation? Why were the police not here? Surely, I should be getting questioned about what I had found. But I wasn't. Instead, all that was happening to me was that I got to sit down for a bit. But it seemed like Chef still expected me to work after this. This was clearly not right. So I decided to go and see the head chef and tell him that I was going to go home. There was no way I could finish my shift, and I really just needed to get out of the restaurant. I got up off of one of the staff lounges and began to walk back down the kitchen. I was just about to enter the kitchen when I heard some voices. They were coming from inside the room that Chef uses to prepare his secret meal. The voices were muffled, but when I got close to the closed door, I could make out what they were saying. "Please, it was a mistake. I didn't mean to leave it sitting on the plate. I am not sure how it happened, but I promise it will not happen again," one voice was saying. It was hard to make out who the voice belonged to, but I was pretty sure it was the voice of the waiter, the one who was still fairly new. "No, you're right. It won't happen again," another voice said. It didn't take long to figure out that this voice was Chef's. He continued speaking, "But that doesn't solve the dilemma we are facing. Someone has paid for the chef's special, and you know the rules. One man's payment becomes another man's meal. I needed that finger for the customer that ordered my special. Do you really think I can serve that after it has been sitting in a sink?" "No, I know you can't serve it now," the waiter replied. I could sense the fear in his voice. He knew he had made a huge mistake, and he was very fearful of what that mistake would cost him. "No, I can't, but the customer has already paid, and we can't make him pay again. So, I will have to get the ingredient from another source," I heard Chef say, a hint of anger in his voice. "No, please, I will find you another. Please, anything but this," the waiter yelled out. It sounded like he was begging. He was desperate. I then heard scream come from the other side of the door. It was a scream of pure pain. The sound was muffled by the door, but because I was standing with my ear to the door, I heard it quite clearly. I then felt the fear rise throughout my body. My heart rate got faster and I felt the urge to run away. I hadn't quite processed what had happened on the other side of the door, but I knew that I wasn't supposed to hear what I just had. I felt my legs suddenly moving, and before I knew it, I was running through the kitchen. My flight response had kicked in. I kept on running through the kitchen and out one of the side doors that lead outside. Before I got out of the kitchen though, I ran past the small window that looked out into the dining area. The first thing I noticed when I glanced out the window was a fairly large group of people sitting at a table, all dressed in suits. What was strange about this group of people though, was that all of them were missing most of their fingers on one of their hands. Bro, call the police or something. Is it weird that I am relieved it didn't end with murder? As far as we know, that new waiter's probably gonna be a fresh new source of fingers. Are you saying this place will serve human flesh if a customer asks? I think the special dish requires the eater's finger to be in the meal. One man's payment becomes another man's meal. The eater gives up their finger to be used in someone else's meal, in order to eat that of whoever paid for ate the special previously, I presume. So what do you presume the very first customer to order it ate? Chef's finger, fried or grilled? This gives an entirely new meaning to give him her the finger just saying. There's a finger foods joke in there somewhere. Are they just eating their own fingers for the special? That's a strange thing to do, cannibalism aside. And I assume they must have paid a ton for the special, so they're basically paying someone to cook their fingers. It must be some bombast cooking or rich people cult kinda ritual if you ask me. A ritual you can only perform 10 times and will get challenging at the end. Edit 5 times. It was on one hand. I read that as you are a physical dishwasher, not a person dishwasher. I did too, and I must say I was disappointed to find out it wasn't.